Hello everyone, and welcome to Milwaukee Foreclosures. I'm your host, Will Picard. On today's program, we'll be discussing Milwaukee's home foreclosure issue. If you drive around Milwaukee, you will find hundreds of homes up for sale that have been foreclosed on. And you will find homes that have been abandoned by homeowners. Vacant properties continue to be a fiscal drag on the city as well. Many of these vacant homes are burglarized, and they become an eyesore for neighborhoods. Milwaukee's foreclosure crisis started back in 2007 and 2008. During those 2 years alone, over 10,000 properties were foreclosed on in Milwaukee. As a result, Milwaukee's Mayor Tom Barrett started the Milwaukee Foreclosure Partnership Initiative in September of 2008. Recently, we interviewed Sam Lichtling of the Department of City Development to discuss Milwaukee's foreclosure issue. Sam is a housing rehabilitation manager for the department. Let's take a look at what Sam had to say.
At the department, we do a number of things related to housing rehabilitation and foreclosure, including both through the department has an affiliated nonprofit, the Neighborhood Improvement Development Corporation, NIDC, and NIDC does a lot of housing rehabilitation work. In the last few years, as foreclosure has been more of an issue, we've shifted some of our focus to programs that help address foreclosure in the city, whether it's helping people purchase foreclosed homes. We work with developers who are rehabilitating foreclosed homes for sale, and we do a lot of that through NIDC and here at the department, as well as kind of being part of the mayor's overall strategy in terms of how to address foreclosure from a holistic perspective, helping people who are facing foreclosure, working with our Department of Neighborhood Services to make sure that banks who own large numbers of foreclosed homes are keeping them up, and then also marketing and making sure people know that there are a lot of foreclosed homes available for sale and helping them get into those homes and get them rehabilitated.
Through Mayor Tom Barrett, Milwaukee formed the Foreclosure Partnership Initiative.
Back in 2008, Mayor Barrett realized that the foreclosure problem was not going to be a small one. It was an issue that's affecting our city in a big way, and it's a multifaceted problem. It was going to need a multifaceted solution. So what the mayor did was brought together a 22-member steering committee made up of leaders in the area, whether it was representatives of banks, housing counseling agencies, realtors, all kind of the partners who were going to be involved in the solution. And he laid out a goal of saying, here's what I would like to see happen. I'd like to see us come up with a strategy for the city that we can implement, realistic, action-oriented items that are going to help us address this, not just in the next couple of months, but in the next couple of years. And under the guidance of the mayor, the MFPI was able to kind of come up with 16 action steps that they wanted to see the city implement. And I'm happy to report that since 2008, I believe we implemented 15 of the 16. And so we've been very successful in getting those steps in place. And a lot of them have had different degrees of success, both in helping keep people in their homes and then in helping address the homes once they become vacant and foreclosed. And the model that the mayor put together has been cited around the country as as Milwaukee is one of the cities that got it right. The National League of Cities studied our response and said, compared to a lot of other cities in the country, Milwaukee understood the problem and understood the need for a comprehensive solution.
Through the Department of City Development, homeowners facing foreclosure are getting the help they need.
Our department gets involved in the foreclosure issue in a lot of ways, but the single biggest thing for people who are facing foreclosure is actually to reach out to a housing counseling agency. The city or our department doesn't provide direct intervention services, but what we do have is we work with a lot of nonprofit counseling agencies who partner with the city in various ways to actually provide that one-on-one counseling to homeowners who are facing foreclosure. And that's the most important message we always are trying to get out, is for people who are nervous they're not able to keep up with their housing payments or having trouble or fearful of losing their home. The most important thing they can do is, as early as in the process as possible, get in touch with that housing counselor, because it's really difficult to navigate kind of this maze of what the banks have available, different programs, for someone who's not familiar with it. But the housing counseling agencies, they're doing this all the time. They provide those services for free, and they are experts at helping people figure out what's available for them and the best way to help them stay in their home if there's any way possible. So that's kind of our role in the process, is to just make sure to help get the word out as much as possible that those agencies exist and are there ready to help people who are facing foreclosure.
Home foreclosures have affected many families and neighborhoods throughout Milwaukee.
Unfortunately, the neighborhoods that have been affected by foreclosure the most are similar to the neighborhoods that have been affected by other issues the most, whether it's crime, loss of jobs, things like that. the same, when we put up maps showing what neighborhoods have the highest number of foreclosures, it often ties into maps that you might see that show concentrations of poverty or crime, and a lot of those indicators kind of go together. A lot of the initial wave of foreclosure was started, in a large part by the subprime mortgage increase that was happening in central city neighborhoods, predominantly neighborhoods with high percentage of minorities also, which were being targeted for very high risk subprime loans, no documentation loans. And the Fair Housing Council and UWM and Legal Action Society have all worked on studies that basically showed that regardless of your individual credit status, if you were in one of those neighborhoods, you were more likely to be steered into a high cost or high risk loan, between 2005 and 2008. So that's had really significant impacts on those neighborhoods, as those loans had rates that started to reset, and the resulting problems with people being able to stay in their homes.
Because of home foreclosures, the city has more problems to deal with.
Some of the most noticeable problems that foreclosure brings on city neighborhoods is just vacancy and abandonment. As people lose their homes, they may vacate that house as soon as they get a notice of foreclosure and feel that they might lose the house, and the process can take another year before the bank actually takes title. So that means there's a year of no one in that house cutting the grass, no one keeping it up, no one watching out to make sure no one's breaking in. And so if you drive down streets in a lot of the neighborhoods where there's high numbers of foreclosed properties, you may see blocks where every other neighbor is keeping up their home impeccably. They clearly take care of their homes. They clearly have a lot of pride in their neighborhood. But then there's this one house that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, and it's because no one's taking responsibility. And that's because there really is, it's been vacated by the owner. The bank either hasn't taken title yet or has taken title and just isn't living up to their duty of responsibility, and that has a big impact on the neighborhood.
But can Milwaukee expect foreclosure filings to increase over the next few years?
The trends that we've started to see show that foreclosure filings peaked in 2009 and 2010. They went down pretty significantly in 2011 and then held at that level in 2012. And from what we hear from talking to the banks, everyone expects that will continue as far as bank-owned foreclosures. Now, that the good news, it's two sides of the same coin. One is saying the good news is I think we've seen the worst. The bad news is it's still not a problem that's going to go away right away, and it's a problem that requires continued vigilance on our part to make sure, again, that vacant properties are maintained really well. But one of the biggest challenges in the past have been convincing people to have the confidence to invest in the market. Buy the house now. Yes, prices are low, but they're not going to go any lower. And I think now people finally are starting to see, whether it's because the national media has embraced this or whether because they just see it anecdotally in their own home, in their own neighborhoods, that the market really is kind of starting to stabilize. And that should give people the confidence to say, okay, now maybe is the time to buy a house in this neighborhood that I've been waiting on, get off the sidelines and try to say, yeah, it's not going to get worse. We've turned the corner, and it's really a good time with prices and interest rates to buy a house.
All right, thank you, Sam. Now I'd like to introduce our in-studio guest, Brian Rosalski. Brian is a realtor for Realty Executives Integrity. Thanks for being with us here today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so how did you get involved with real estate?
Well, when I was first leaving college, I was 21 years old, looking for my first property, wanted to move into a property and be able to cash flow at the same time. So after looking around in several different areas, I found a 3-family in South Milwaukee. I was able to move into one of the units, and then the cash flow from the other 2 units was enough to pay the mortgage, insurance, taxes, and everything else. So lived there for a couple years and saved up and moved on to the next place.
Wow. How long have you been a realtor?
It's been 10 years now. After that experience, that really sparked my interest in real estate, and I figured if I'm going to keep buying properties, I might as well just become a realtor.
Yeah, I guess so. Why did you decide to become a realtor?
Several reasons. One, I love real estate. It's fantastic. You are your own boss. You run your own business. You make your own hours. If you don't want to work that day, you don't work that day. But if you don't work that day, you're not going to eat either. So the other reason too is there is unlimited potential. Whatever you put into it, that's what you're going to get back out of it.
What do you like most about being a realtor?
Same thing as the last question. You get to run your own business, make your own decisions, call your own shots, and the unlimited potential is what I like. Okay.
Can you take us through the process of buying a home?
Sure. Very simple. The first thing that you need to do that a buyer needs to do is get pre-approved. If you go out and start looking at properties before you know how much you're approved for, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your realtor's time. Get into a lender, get your financial information on the table. They'll be able to let you know not only how much you can borrow, but what type of loan you're going to be looking at. Once you have your pre-approval letter in hand, then it's time to select a realtor. There's several different sites you can go out there, realtor.com, Zillow, they have realtors' profiles on there. Take a look at some of the realtors, read through the profiles, find somebody that you're going to match with, and contact that realtor. Once you're in contact with them, let them know the type of property you're looking for. It has to be set up on an automatic email system in MLS. They'll take the exact, what you're looking for in a home, put it into the MLS system, and then when a new property pops up, you get an automatic email that day, the same day the realtor puts it into MLS, you get that property. And if you want to see it, ask your realtor. They'll set up the appointment. Once you find a property that you want to make an offer on, your realtor they'll walk you through the offer process. Make sure you write in an inspection contingency. You're going to write in your financing contingency. If everything checks out with the financing and with the inspection, and you get your loan, then you're ready to close.
Make it sound so simple.
It's fairly simple. With a good realtor, it is.
Yeah. What type of real estate do you specialize in?
I found myself doing a lot of investment real estate recently with the amount of foreclosures over these last few years. A lot of investors have come to me looking for good deals, and that's the area that I kind of gravitated towards.
What are some of the challenges of selling a foreclosed home?
A couple of them. Unrealistic expectations from buyers I would say is the most is the thing that comes to my mind first. People see the word foreclosure, they see a property that's foreclosed on, they think it's priced lower just because it's a foreclosure, when that's not the case. You know, foreclosure properties are priced based upon condition, not just because they're a foreclosure. The other thing that comes to mind too is a lot of the foreclosure properties you can't purchase with a mortgage. It has to be cash, and that's mostly due to condition. If a property is missing pipes, missing a furnace, the roof is shot, the foundation's coming in, a bank is not going to loan money on that property, so you would have to come up with cash to purchase that property.
So what you're saying is that foreclosed homes tend to be in bad condition?
Not necessarily. Some of them are in great condition. I would say the majority are in non-financeable condition.
Okay. What are some of the risks with buying a foreclosed home?
I wouldn't say there's any more risk of buying a foreclosed home than buying a regular home. With a foreclosure property, you do get an opportunity to have a home inspection, and you do have clean and clear title. So by the time you close on that property, you would have enough time to do your due diligence and make sure that you know exactly what you're getting into. So I would say there's no more risk to buying a foreclosure property than buying any other property that's on the market.
Okay. Is now a good time to buy a foreclosed home?
Now is a fantastic time to buy a foreclosed home. There's an abundance of foreclosure properties on the market. The prices are extremely depressed, and I would advise everybody to buy as much as possible right now.
Okay. Who usually buys foreclosed homes?
Everybody's been buying foreclosed homes lately. I'd say the majority of people, the majority of foreclosure properties are picked up by cash investors, either looking to rehabilitate them and put them back on the market as flips and make some money, or to fix them up, put tenants in there, and hold them as rentals. That's the majority of the properties that are sold are to investors. But first-time home buyers, move-up buyers, they're buying the foreclosures right now because they offer a good value.
Excellent. All right, now we're going to go and take a break from our interview with Brian and take a look at a recent interview we did with mortgage broker Joe Holjak. Joe is the owner of Junigo Mortgage Services. Let's take a look at what Joe had to say about home foreclosures.
I own a boutique mortgage brokerage by the name of Junigo Mortgage Services. I've been a mortgage broker since 1997. I've been in the mortgage industry since 1995, and I opened Junigo Mortgage in 2006.
So what do first-time homebuyers need to do when looking for that first home?
The first thing you want to do, if you're a first-time home buyer and you're looking to purchase a home, the first thing that you want to do is get pre-approved. And the pre-approval process is quite simple. Basically, it's a phone call. Okay, you can literally call me, and it's a 10-minute phone call. And the questions that I would ask you are pretty basic: legal name, date of birth, social security number, your employer, how long you've been employed for, how much money you make, how much money you have for a down payment, where the money's coming from, things that you basically should know about your personal finances, okay? Once that's done, I run credit, I put together a whole scenario and let you know exactly what you may or may not qualify for, okay? If you are, in a situation where you will not qualify now, what I try to do is educate you and get you to the point where 6 months or a year later, or however long it may or may not be, to get you to that point so that you can purchase a home, and whether that be helping you clean up your credit, saving money for a down payment, and how that should be structured. That's basically the pre-approval process. Now, once you're pre-approved and you're ready to go, what I would do is issue a pre-approval letter for up to X amount of dollars, whatever you may qualify for, what you're looking as far as an amount goes. And then at that point, I would either refer you to one of my real estate partners that would help you find the house if you don't already have somebody that you're working with. And then at that point, you would find the property, put the offer in, and once you put the offer in and it's accepted, that's when you and I would meet and start the whole financing process.
So do you make new homeowners aware of the risks of buying a new house?
If you're a first-time home buyer, the odds are this is probably the biggest financial step that you've taken in your life at that point, okay? So really, you should be educated and understand and know about what you're doing, okay, and what you're getting yourself into potentially, such as, okay, let's just say hypothetically 5 years down the line, after you've been in this house for 5 years, something happens where you lose your job and you can't afford to make the payment. You need to know what your alternatives are, okay? And that's what I try to do, is I try to educate my clients. I try to educate them and let them know that these are the potential things that could happen if you got yourself into this situation. And as far as the lenders go, I feel that the lenders really should make education a key. Okay, not that they don't, but I think it should be stressed a little bit more. That's why, me personally, in my company, I stress. I'm very, very adamant about explaining what the ups and downs could be. Okay, there's a lot of positives to owning your own home, but there's negatives as well, and people need to be aware of that, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, because you really don't know. So again, education is key.
Does having your home foreclosed on ruin your credit?
If your home is foreclosed on, the credit will be affected negatively, absolutely. The rule of thumb is that on a once the house goes to sheriff's sale, okay, that's basically the very end of the foreclosure is when it goes to sheriff's sale. For financing down the road, it's technically 3 years from the time of that sheriff's sale for that person to be able to qualify for financing again. And there's factors that go along with that. In those 3 years that pass, obviously they have to get their credit built up again, establish credit trade lines, and those are things that I educate them about. So if somebody came to me and said, hey, we have a house that was foreclosed on last year, and we'd like to buy a house now, at that point I would again run their credit and look at their whole scenario and let them know exactly what position they're in as to whether they can do something now or what they need to do in the future to get to that point, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 years down the line.
So are most lenders willing to work with homeowners to make sure that they don't lose their home?
Bottom line is that it's always best to try to keep them in that house. And that's where the lender comes in, and in most cases, if that person can modify that loan and the bank is willing to do that, I think that's the best way to go to keep that person in that home and that family together in that home.
So if you're looking to buy your first home, is now a good time?
This is the best time in the history of the country to buy a home, hands down. It's that saying, buy low, sell high. It's like anything else. The real estate market is up and down just like any other market. And right now, we are literally in the middle of a major discounted sale in real estate. If you're a first-time home buyer and you're on the fence and you're thinking about, I don't know if I want to buy a house, you're really going back and forth with it, you're really missing the boat if you don't take advantage of it right now, because you have a lot of inventory out there that is extremely discounted, and interest rates are extremely low. And we're still doing financing where you really only need a small down payment. For example, FHA financing, 3.5% down, okay? So to answer your question, yes, this is the best time in the history of the country to buy a home. Absolutely.
All right, we thank Joe for providing us with that important information. Now let's continue our conversation with Realtor Brian Wazowski. Do you know if Milwaukee has an abundance of foreclosed homes?
Milwaukee does have an abundance of foreclosed homes. I checked this morning, and in Milwaukee County, between single family and two family properties, there's over 2,100 that are currently listed for sale on MLS. And that doesn't count the amount of foreclosures that are still in the works that are going to be coming on the market. That's just what's currently for sale.
Is there a reason why it's that high?
Well, like you said, going back to 2007 and 2008, the credit crisis, and just a lot of people got foreclosed on. A lot of people just couldn't work with the loan that they were given.
Okay. Is it more difficult to sell a foreclosed home rather than a home owned by a client?
Slightly, and that goes back to the unrealistic expectations. You have a lot of buyers that see a foreclosed home. They take a look at the area, they take a look at the price, and they feel that, wow, that's a great deal for that house in that area. And then when they get into the property, they realize, the plumbing's burst, the furnace is gone, the AC unit's gone, and there's a hole in the roof, and then you're not able to finance it. So unless you have cash, you're not going to be able to purchase that property. So that's really the one difficulty that we're running into with buyers that want to purchase foreclosed homes. They don't realize that they have to have cash in order to purchase something that's in that tough a condition.
Yeah. Are foreclosed homes that are for sale usually advertised like regular homes?
Everything gets advertised on MLS. There is no secret list of foreclosures. You see a lot of things on the internet. If you pay a monthly fee, you get this secret list of foreclosures that's coming up. There is no such thing. They all get listed on MLS. The banks understand that the way that they're going to get the most money for their property is to put it in front of the most competition. And how you do that is you list it on MLS with a local broker. So any foreclosure property that's out there, whether it's Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, HUD, local banks, national banks, they find a local realtor to work with. They'll give them the property. That realtor goes in, takes the pictures, lists it for sale on MLS, and sticks a sign in the front yard just like any other property that's for sale.
What is your best advice for a new realtor?
Wow, for a new realtor, when you make the decision to become a realtor, it's not easy at first. Some realtors, they do, hit the ground running year 1, year 2, and they have great years. But typically, you're building a business. You're building a business from scratch. So it's 3, 4, 5 years sometimes before you start to have repeat clients come in, and you have enough business to feel comfortable. Just like any other business that's out there, it takes a while to build up. So you just really have to stay with it. Once you make that decision, just stay with it and work hard.
Good advice. Just in case somebody is interested in becoming a realtor, how do you get a realtor's license?
Oh, very easy. All the steps are right on Wisconsin Realtor Association website, which is www.wra.org. If you go on there, there's a link for Become a Professional. Click on that. It tells you how to become a realtor. They'll step you right through the process. You could either take the courses online or regular book version. You go in, you take a test, and you get your realtor's license.
Okay. Now I haven't gone through a whole lot of houses myself. Haven't been in the market. Can you describe to me the process of showing off a home?
To showing a home?
Yeah, like a foreclosed home.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem. So if say for instance you see a property on the street that's advertised and you wanted to see it, you could either call the realtor whose name is on the sign that's in the front yard, or you call your realtor that you have a relationship with and that you're working with. That realtor then contacts the listing agent for the property, gives them their information. They get the lockbox combination for that property. You set the appointment and then you walk through.
Okay. Now, how do you prepare for that personally, though?
Well, it depends what my client wants. Like say for instance, if we're going to take a look at a property and you say, well, Brian, are there any other properties for sale in that area? Or if you're thinking about making an offer and you want to know what other properties have sold in that immediate area in the last, say, 3 months or 6 months. I can go right into MLS and take a look at that area and pull up all the information for you.
Now, being a realtor in Milwaukee, are there any special considerations you have to take into account? Is there any differences, being a realtor here than somewhere else, say?
I would say the one difference is in Milwaukee, because of our climate, it is very seasonal. Investors are buying year round. That it doesn't matter if it's winter, spring, summer, or fall. Investors are investors. They're going to buy year round. But people with families, they're not looking to move in winter. A lot of people don't want to buy in December, January, February. Snow is on the ground. It's 10 degrees outside. There's ice. The kids are in school. There's not a lot of people looking to move. So those are typically slower months. You see less inventory on the market, and then spring comes and it's busy again.
Okay. All right. I'd like to thank our guest, Brian Rosalski, for being with us here today. And I'd also like to thank Sam Lichtling of the Department of City Development and Joe Holjak of Junigo Mortgage Services for their interviews as well. And I thank all of you for watching, and good night.